everybody. This is Declan Byrne. I'm the president of the WiMAX Forum, and welcome to the first of our virtual presentation series. So in light of the worldwide pandemic and the associated shutdown, we have decided to try to maintain some social buy-in between the ecosystem interested in AeroMACS. And the idea then was to have a series every other week, the next several weeks, a series of presentations where we invite leaders in different parts of the ecosystem to come and talk about AeroMACS and other interesting ideas around our telecommunications standard. And so this is the first of those meetings, and I'm really delighted that we have such a powerful trifecta of international regulatory leaders joining me in this initial presentation. I'll be followed after very brief introductory remarks by Jack J, longtime friend of AeroMACS. He's with Eurocontrol. He's the head of communications and frequency coordination unit. Jackie will be followed after his presentation by Brett Phillips, another longtime friend of AeroMACS and friend of this organization, senior systems engineer, Federal Aviation Administration, and will be known to probably many of the folks listening in on this presentation. Finally, Salvo da Silva with the International Civil Aviation Organization will wrap things up. He's Chief Global Interoperable Systems Section and a longtime friend to us personally as well as the AeroMACS technology. So that's the reason why we wanted to get together in this format over the next several weeks. Our business is a very social business. We are in the business, obviously, of aviation, by definition, carrying people hither and yon, to and fro. And we have sorely missed the many opportunities that generally are created over the course of the year to meet with you all at conferences and exchange ideas about what's happening with AeroMACS. And so this is a poor alternative, but it is an alternative for all of us to get together and talk about what's happening in the world of AeroMACS around the world. The WiMAX Forum is a not-for-profit. Based in the United States, an international footprint. We're a member-driven organization. We helped develop the AeroMACS technology profile associated standard, and now we count ourselves lucky as the sort of stewards of that standard for international users of the AeroMACS. We do a number of things. We obviously market and evangelize for AeroMACS. But we also manage the technology profile and standard. We do a lot of international regulatory work on the radio side with radio regulators to make sure that spectrum is allocated in a harmonized way. And we also, importantly, do two other things. We manage a equipment certification program so that manufacturers and manufacture equipment complying with the standard, so when they bring it to market for sale, they will have a certificate from our organization as delivered by an independent lab, certifying they're comporting to the standard, which is important for users of technology. Finally, we have developed a cybersecurity PKI program, which is part and parcel of the AeroMACS solution. We deliver that to either manufacturers or users through a web portal system, and it has been one that I think has been really kind of a model for similar kinds of PKI cybersecurity solutions, and one that we've been delighted to have the support of Chinese regulators, ICAO, FAA, and others in its development and now implementation. AeroMACS is really a 21st century communication solution. It's a 4G technology that was selected after exhaustive years-long study by international regulatory unit, system, family, if you will, led by ICAO, FAA, Civil Aviation Authority of China, Japanese Civil Aviation Bureau, Eurocontrol, others. And they identified AeroMACS as a suitable 4G technology standard for surface communications to bring aeronautical mobile communications into the 21st century. AeroMACS proudly stands alongside VSAT and LDACs as two other technologies identified as a three technologies help bring the aviation industry forward. AeroMACS systems have capacity, speed, performance, and security, as I mentioned, really ensure, and importantly, access to licensed, internationally allocated harmonized spectrum. So they have the AeroMACS systems have the capability, and our speakers will talk about that today, deliver all sorts of innovative sort of next generation solutions for the aviation industry for safety, all in support of safety and efficiency of flight. So as I mentioned, it was a years-long process conducted by ICAO, Eurocontrol, FAA, and others to identify, because it's not a trivial decision, to identify what would be suitable technologies as 4G technologies to bring the aviation industry forward. AeroMACS was identified alongside LDACs and ESAT as a candidate suitable technology, and then was stipulated in the ICAO Standards and Recommended Practices process, and in the Eurocontrol and Euro-K, I should say, and RTCA associated MOPS, MASPs, etc. So this activity, as you see, this started really in 2004, and represented the better part of 10 to 15 years of effort, standardization, development, technical profiles, sort of in the ecosystem coalescing around. Next slide, please. Importantly, there is an international allocation issued by the International Telecommunications Union Radio Conference 7 between 5091 and 5150 megahertz. So this is the same spectrum allocation anywhere in the world for AeroMACS. Not only is that important for equipment manufacturers, but it's sort of obvious on the face. At an airline flying from, for example, Frankfurt to Beijing, the radio systems, the AeroMACS radio system cockpit will need to have similar spectrum allocations in both those airports. So in recognition of that, the international community sought and was granted this international set-aside of this allocation for AeroMACS. It's a 5 megahertz channel. There are 30 additional megahertz available in various national allocations. The United States, for example, called the lower 30, between 5,000 and 50-30 megahertz is allocated an additional 30 megahertz for AeroMACS applications. And that was really in recognition or anticipation that there would be a host of applications for AeroMACS, and giving an additional 30 megahertz would be helpful to the industry in support of all those applications. So that wraps up my introduction. Normally we would take questions, but this isn't recorded. And so I guess before I pass the ball to Jackie, I would just say that these presentations will be available. And my colleague Alessandra Rocha, who is sort of the clue behind all of this, can make this presentation available on demand. So I want to pass the presentation to Jackie Puzet, Eurocontrol. Jackie, if you'd be kind enough to take it away.
Yes, thank you, Ben. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Jackie Puzet. I'm currently working at Eurocontrol and leading the communication and frequency coordination. And in this presentation, I will start first with the overall roadmap, and we'll go more in detail for the WiMAX. So you have to know that in Europe, the SESAR program performing the research and development has started about 10 years ago, and that issued recently the context of the so-called PJ14, the new CNS Roadmap, basically taking and merging at the same time the SESAR vision with the strategic direction and considering the current infrastructure to identify a transition path for modernizing, improving the infrastructure. So there are a certain number of basic strategic directions. First, the stressing the need for an integrated CNS concept that we have all CNS working together and defining on the basis of that with new technology a common CNS target architecture. I will not go that much in detail because it's not the purpose of the presentation, but just to show you that AeroMACS is a wider context that we are calling integrated CNS, ICNS. If we go to the next slide. On the basis of this, the outcome of this research program is basically new operational concept and analysis of the infrastructure that is moving to two other areas. If you click to the next slide. We have on one side the CNS roadmap and the targeted architecture. architecture, and we are trying with the CNS roadmap to move to the targeted architecture, which is on the right side. If you go on the next slide. So you can see the overall CNS roadmap and strategy, which is a little bit complicated because it is incorporating communication, navigation, and surveillance. And if you go to the next slide, I will show you the important part for the meeting today, which is basically the part that concerns the communications. So ATM communication is requiring for the future more capacity, more reliability, more security, and lower cost. As such, one of the key elements that we intend to put in operation in the future is the data link and the 4D trajectory management that we consider as key for ATM efficiency and capacity. And for that, we need to make some evolution in the communication infrastructure, what we call the future communication infrastructure, which is based on different technology that will be used at the same time and in parallel for basically air-ground communication. So the first thing is to consider, of course, the VDL2, which is the current technology of previous slide, please. Could you come to the previous slide? Thank you. So the VDL2, the SATCOM, and then we have, as mentioned by Brian, two technologies that are currently, that were under development, the AeroMACS that is now developed and complete, and development are completed, and the LDAX technology. And we are looking also for potential old technology on the basis of the performance-based communication, navigation, and surveillance, with all technology that could be available, a typical example being the SATCOM technology. We go to the next slide. So the AeroMACS standardization is now completed. Each one is the first technology that is fully developed under the ICAO umbrella and in close conjunction with the speaker that just after me, Brian from FAA. So basically, we have RTCA standard, we have Eurocontrol, we have ICAO manual that are available. So just not going into all the details, but just to show that all the standards is available and the development of the technology is now complete. We go to the next slide. The technology has been completed and has been tested in the context of the SESAR PJ14, trying to have the integration of AeroMACS in a multilink ATNIOSI environment. So there were some tests that were executed successfully in Florence in March last year, and it was demonstrated at Madrid at the World ATM Congress. Unfortunately, we didn't have the chance to participate to the last one that was cancelled due to the COVID-19 crisis. So for this test that has been performed, if you go to the next press, to have the diagram. So basically, ATN exchanging ATN design two messages along the various phases of the flight using a seamless vertical handover between AeroMACS and VDL2. One of the key elements of the SESAR project was to see from an architecture point of view if we can easily move from one technology to the others, and the one that has been used for this test was AeroMACS, and this was a successful testing that has been done in the context of SESAR. Go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, next one, please. So AeroMACS is an international development. So in Europe, it has been successfully tested on the Lisbon airport, mainly for the airport fixed services and for vehicle applications. And in terms of implementation, AeroMACS is part of the SESAR Deployment Manager Implementation Plan, even if so far only one airport, the Lisbon airport, has been equipped with the AeroMACS equipment. Go to the next slide. What we know is that there are some development in the US, but Brian will speak about that later on. And then on the next slide, there are implementation in other areas of the world, in Brazil, for instance, at Galeão International Airport at Rio, for fixed services and for mobile services for the vehicles, the way it has been tested so far in the Lisbon airport in Europe. Next slide. So in China, we know that there are some, on the basis of information paper, we can see that it has been tested as well from trials, but even for data link using e-taxi and surface vehicle surveillance and navigation. And if you come to the next one. And in Japan as well, on the basis of information paper that we have seen, it has been tested as well in a demonstrator for a certain number of services like e-taxi, SMGCS and geofencing. And that's it. So just to conclude on this presentation, just to tell you that AeroMACS now is available, is ready for deployment. Some trials have been done, successful trials so far. We are just waiting for the go and the investor now to deploy this technology, which is one of the technologies identified in Europe in the context of the future communication infrastructure. So we are following carefully this development. We will continue to follow. The next step for us is to try to, as soon as we have implementation, to have the frequency separation criteria to allocate the spectrum, as mentioned also by Leon during this presentation. That is the conclusion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jackie. Fantastic introduction. I want to move it now to Brent Phillips, if I may. Brent, as I mentioned, is Senior Systems Engineer with the Federal Aviation Administration and a long-time proponent of AeroMACS technology and was really involved from day one in identification of AeroMACS and as a candidate technology and sort of husbanding it through the international standardization process to sort of get it where it is today. So Brent, without further ado, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Declan. And as Declan mentioned, I am with the Federal Aviation Administration here in the United States out of the Systems Engineering and Safety Office. Today I'd like to talk to you about the status of the update on the implementation and operational use of AeroMACS in the National Airspace System. As Jackie had mentioned and Declan alluded to, is we've been working over the last 10 or 15 years, initial work starting in ICAO with the development of the standards in order to progress this technology to the point where we're now at a point for implementation. And I'll go ahead and identify with the first chart here some of the actual advantages to a wireless communication system that supported our decision in going forward with it. Firstly, it provides a reliable and secure solution to supplement or replace the existing cable loop technology, which is currently installed at many of the large airports in the NAS. This means it will be capable of supporting many of the existing and future fixed sensor systems on the airport surface. Secondly, the AeroMACS network can be installed very quickly and at much lower cost and less disturbance to the airport operations than the existing cable loop program. In fact, the typical cable loop system is projected to cost as much as $3 million to install and get to an operational status, while the AeroMACS network may cost an order of magnitude less, or around $300,000. Finally, AeroMACS offers a tremendous amount of flexibility over the cable loop system. AeroMACS remote stations can locate to where the sensor performs best, unlike the cable loop, which once installed cannot be easily relocated. So just to give you a little background on the AeroMACS technology itself. As you can see, the system is based on the existing IEEE 802.16e standard. It is a broadband system capable of supporting large data rates, which are projected in the future. Operating in the C-band, it has the appropriate range to support typical airport activities. And what may prove to be its best characteristic, it operates in the protected aviation spectrum. This will help to guarantee that communications will not interfere with other systems operated in the airport vicinity. Next chart, please. Okay, so talking about the spectrum, the protected aviation spectrum band which the AeroMACS operates in, that's 5091 megahertz to 5150 megahertz, that supports safety and regularity of flight communications. Now this means that AeroMACS is able to support air traffic communications as well as large amounts of airport and airline communications. Now while the system must be operated on the airport surface, it is capable of supporting both fixed and mobile applications as shown in the chart. Okay, if we can move to the next chart, please. All right, so this offers up a number of systems that AeroMACS is capable of supporting, including those identified on the chart. You can You have your surface radar and sensor systems owned and operated by both the FAA and airports community. You also have mobile assets, including the aircraft itself and ground vehicles. A typical AeroMACS network will include a number of remote units and one or more base stations to receive the sensor data. A AAA server is also provided to support authentication of the users for security purposes. Once an initial AeroMACS network has been implemented at an airport, it will be easily or very easily and cost-effective for other sensors to be added or joined to this network. Next chart. All right, so following a lengthy standards development and system validation effort, the FAA qualified a single vendor's system, now being Siemens Corporation, as a qualified enterprise solution under the FAA Telecommunications Infrastructure Program. This means that the system meets the FAA's next-gen performance requirements and can support future FAA program procurements. Having an enterprise solution will help to guarantee interoperability between all future programs which choose to make use of this AeroMACS technology. Next chart. All right, so the first FAA program to take advantage of this offering is the Airport Surface Surveillance Capability Program. This is a low-cost alternative to the current ASDX system. It provides situational awareness and surveillance of the airport surface movement area. The AeroMACS remote units are co-located with the ASSC sensors, and they transmit the data back to the base stations, which are located on the airport control tower, where it is then processed and displayed on the controller's screen. Next. All right, so the FTI program has currently installed AeroMACS networks at 8 medium-sized airports in the NAF, as you can see in this chart here, in support of the ASSC program. These units are all of the enterprise solution configuration and are being used operationally as we speak. Next chart. So I wanted to give you a larger or a longer-term look at the ASSC future implementation plans with this eGraph. If funded, and if funding is made available, the program office intends to go back and retrofit some of the existing ASDX sites, which currently use microwave backhaul transmission systems that are not operating in the correct spectral band. So in summary, the FAA is moving forward. We have the enterprise solution available for any future programs to use under the FTI program. It's easy to access that particular program through a CLIN in the existing contract. And as you can see, we have operational and systems which are being used in the airport environment as we speak. So with that, I'll turn it over to Declan for our next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. That was fantastic. A really good kind of detailed view of what the Federal Aviation Administration's implementation of AeroMACS and the reasons behind that, which is exciting. So we're going to wrap up with Salo da Silva. As I mentioned, with the International Civil Aviation Organization, Salo is a kind of internationally recognized expert on these sorts of issues. He is Chief Global Interoperable Systems section in ICAO in Montreal. We see him frequently. Haven't seen him in a long time, though. We've missed him, but we thought no initial virtual presentation would be complete without his participation, so we're delighted to have him on board with us. So, Salo, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Declan, and good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I miss you guys too. And mainly in this situation, you see that when we keep working towards safety and improving the efficiency, these times has shown us that more than just safety, efficiency, and interoperability of systems, we have to take care of the continuity of the operations as well, due to the issues that we are seeing nowadays with our industry. And as I mentioned, we in ICAO, we work towards global interoperability, and that's the work we do in the global interoperable systems section. And every single work that we do, it is related to previous concepts that have already been developed to guide the economy and the industry in general. We aim all the time for the interoperability of the navigation systems that have been already described in several different documents in ICAO, like the Global HM Operational Concept, who became for us a kind of a Bible in terms of where we are going with the navigation system and how we should develop the systems to guarantee interoperability, efficiency, and nowadays, more important, continuity of the operations. So as I mentioned before, we have the Global HM Operational Concept. As this concept was the base for the development of the Global Air Navigation Plan, who describes where we are going in terms of air navigation all over the world. And this plan is also the base for the development of the regional air navigation plans and the national air navigation plan for states to follow. In all these plans, one of the things that's quite clear and is directly linked to the AeroMACS technology is that information management is for us one important aspect, that you keep all the concepts and the technologies together, that you glue all of them. Most of the time this is translated in terms of system-wide information management that have been already addressing several aspects of information, like quality of the information, on even the distribution of the information through specific information management services. The point is that up to now, we did not pay much attention to one important aspect of this information distribution, that is the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the information. Because we never thought about real threats to these characteristics of information management. And nowadays we have to think about that, and it's good to see AeroMACS that have been taking care of that from a long period of time through the use of public key infrastructure. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that. And this is a true recognition that one of the things that is present in the system right now is cyber threats. And we are aware that unfortunately, we cannot eliminate these threats. What we can do, at least, is reduce the surface for these threats, or reduce the attack surface. And this can be done in several ways. One of them is to have a global resilient aviation internet network, an interoperable network that can be used by all stakeholders. We can also use a private block of address that is not accessible through the public internet. And this is something that we in ICAO, we have been negotiating with the governing bodies of the internet, particularly the International Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers, to guarantee that although using the internet infrastructure, we have some privacy for the aviation community, considering that we have safety of life as our main objective. All the procedures we do is obviously guaranteeing interoperability, guaranteeing efficiency of the system, but safety of life is our business. So we need from our colleagues from the internet industry to consider our specific needs. And we have several ways to guarantee this privacy of the aviation specific requirements. One of them, and obviously AeroMACS also use a lot, is the management of digital identities. And when we talk about digital identities for the aviation industry, we are talking not only about the digital identity of aviation stakeholders, but also non-aviation stakeholders as well that are now providing services to the aviation community. You can go ahead, Alessandra. So we have aviation and non-aviation stakeholders that need to be identified to guarantee that we can reduce this surface attack. Please go ahead, Alessandro. You can go. And this is something that we have several ways to achieve, and AeroMACS is being used with lots of success. A public key infrastructure that, as the name describes, the use of public and private keys and certificates to guarantee that all components in the systems are identified and performed in such a way that the efficiency, the continuity of operations are not jeopardized. And that's what in ICAO we call a trust framework. Trust framework is basically a series of processes and procedures. You can go ahead, Alessandra. Process and procedures that will guarantee that all stakeholders providing, consuming, or interacting with the navigation system are identified, and everybody trusts the message that's being exchanged. This is what we want to achieve with the trust framework that will be an important component of the aviation from now on, mainly seeing now what's being happening with the continuity of operations in the current situations. We believe that the use of the cyberspace can be a next COVID-19 if you don't take the corrective measures right now to guarantee continuity of operations at a global, regional, or even national level. And that's why in ICAO we are investing a lot, coordinate with everybody, the whole spectrum of the aviation stakeholders to guarantee that we are on the same page. We are developing procedures that will guarantee in the future that nothing could jeopardize the continuity of operations, always take into consideration safety of operations as well in our developments. So thank you very much for that opportunity, Declan, and I'm available for you whenever you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Saulo. We've been really impressed and happy with the implicit and explicit support of the International Civil Aviation Organization as we at the WiMAX Forum and the ecosystem have developed a public infrastructure program for AeroMACS, and we have an administrative council at AeroMACS, kind of almost an oversight council that sort of keeps an eye on how we develop PKI program, how we implement it, how we qualify new certificate authorities, et cetera, and we're delighted to have ICAO's advice and participation in that organization. And it's appropriate that we have that sort of advice partnership. So thank you very much for that, Sal. I just got more slides. One, I think this is important, as mentioned by kind of all the speakers, is the safety of life technology. And as such, it's appropriate that there be a long and considered and deliberate process of standards development, technical development, kind of coalescing of the ecosystem. There's a lot of fingers in the pie here in terms of different constituencies in the standards development process, not only ARIC, EuroK, RTCA, CARATs, others. So everyone had to be sort of considered in the development of the standard, and all of those standards had to be harmonized. And this chart sort of nicely shows that process and the associated tests and trials over a 14 to 15-year period. As Jackie Couvet mentioned, the good news is, next slide please, we're now in commercial implementation. So that heavy lifting is really behind us, and we are now delivering into the world commercial, secure, broadband, certified systems. And with some nice success. As you can see, we're in probably 50 or 60 airports around the world, and certainly are seeing increased momentum and acceleration of airport deployments, and not only led by China, but Korea and almost every continent as well. So we're very, very happy to see that. And my organization stands ready to assist. Please reach out to us. I think these presentations are available upon request. Just send a note to info@wimaxforum.org, and my colleague Alessandro Rocha or someone will respond to you quickly. And as well, this presentation will be available on the website, fully recorded. I want to thank my colleagues today, Jackie, Saulo, Brent. You guys have been fantastic. I look forward to seeing you all in person soon, hopefully in 2020, God willing. And again, thank you for not only your continued support, but for your participation.